Hello and welcome to another live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I'm John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Snyder Daily Times. She's Audrey Snyder, doing the same at InsideTheLions.substack.com. And Audrey, it is weirdly almost game day. It doesn't.
Is there a game?
Feels very strange. Yeah, it feels very strange right now.
Yeah, it's the Penn State Iowa preview episode of the Nittany Dispatch. But spoiler, we're not going to talk too much Iowa today, just because that's not the story around here. And quite frankly, the coaching search will continue to dominate the news cycle for us here. We heard from QB1, Ethan Grunkemeyer, Wednesday night before John and I hopped on here. We heard from interim head coach Terry Smith. We've also heard from players throughout the week. And John, this is an emotional team. It's been an emotional week. And I appreciate the honesty from Terry Smith saying, hey, yeah, we got to go play a game. And somehow it's on him to get these guys ready. You could feel the pain from the players this week that we spoke to on Zoom and in person Wednesday night. Penn State did not practice Sunday. James Franklin was relieved of his duties Sunday afternoon. Franklin addressed the team. Terry Smith also addressed the team, and no one was in a good state to go and practice. So they said, you know what, we're not going to do it today. And Smith told us Wednesday night that with each day, the group's getting a little livelier. They're starting to come around a little bit. But this is no doubt a tough week for everybody over there in that football building.
Yeah, and the one thing he did say, too, is like not putting in the effort is just not acceptable. So when Saturday rolls around, that they'll be ready. But you still have to wonder, how ready are they going to be, right? Like this is they dealt with a lot of emotional stuff on Sunday. Most of them only know James Franklin as their head coach. That this is new territory for all of them. Not to mention, QB1 has never started a college game before. It's a very awkward situation. It is funny. The phone or the video calls earlier this week with players, like it seemed like guys were struggling with it still, right? And I talked to Zane Durant tonight. You talked to Zachy Wheatley. I thought, I don't know, maybe it was different with Zachy. I thought Zane was mostly pushing forward, I guess, more so than the guys that we spoke to earlier in the week. It seemed like what Terry was saying was true, right? That these guys are working through it, and Zane, it's different because Zane is off to the NFL after this year. He is this was going to be his last year pretty much no matter what anyways. And so he probably understands the business aspect of it more too, because it was a business decision for him to come back because, obviously Penn State has to make it financially viable for all those guys to come back in the modern era of college football. But, and he wanted to accomplish a lot of things, but still he understands that these games moving forward are important, not just for him, but for his teammates. And he talked a lot about playing for each other, but it seemed pretty clear that yes, they were all hurt from Sunday. Yes, they were all hurting earlier in the week, but he at least seems to be working through that and moving past that, and talked a lot about how football is fun. And that's why he's having fun. So he doesn't have to worry about kind of that aspect of it because he's always having fun when he's playing.
Should we make that the title of the show, John? Football is fun.
I don't think it's good for SEO.
Brought to you by the Nittany. Yes, that's not going to help for our SEO purposes. Yeah, I mean, I thought hearing from Nick Dawkins Tuesday on Zoom, and Nick is always a good window into the team and what guys are thinking and feeling as the emotional leader, the heartbeat of this team. You could feel his pain during that Zoom call, and the fact that he said, yeah, they all feel guilty that because they didn't play well enough, James Franklin doesn't have a job. And Terry Smith said Wednesday night, yeah, we're all feeling it. We didn't do our jobs well enough because if we did, Coach Franklin would still be here. And so it is tough. It is emotional. It is difficult. And I think that's also when you have a guy like James Franklin who was so emotional with his players, they feel that. I think what you see this week, and again, it's either going to be one of two extremes. You're either going to see a team that's galvanized and that wants to go on and win, in part for James Franklin, in part to show that, hey, we're a good team, we can figure this out. I think you're either going to see that, or you're going to see a continuation of a team that has just flatlined that we've seen since the Oregon loss. I will say, I think Terry Smith is the perfect person to be in this situation as the interim head coach. Like he said to us, he said, when you guys talk to me Saturday after the game, you will not be asking about effort and energy, that he's going to get that out of those guys. And I believe him when he says that. I think you look at his background and the work that he did, especially at the high school level. That's all about finding ways to motivate guys, right? To tap into their abilities, their skills. Talented cornerbacks coach, great recruiter. Quite frankly, John, whoever comes in here next, and we know Terry Smith wants to be part of those conversations for the head coaching job. Whoever comes in here next should strongly consider keeping this guy on their staff, assuming that if this is something that Terry wants to keep doing and wants to keep doing here. But this is a showcase for everybody. This is hey, you're putting stuff on tape either for the next Penn State head coach, your next head coach, for the NFL, or if you're a position coach or a coordinator, you're trying to show, hey, this is the best representation of your work. So no clue what we're going to see Saturday night. But yeah, you could certainly feel the hurt and feel the pain around here this week, no doubt.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I tend to think that keeping Terry Smith on staff will be a priority no matter who the next head coach is. He's a valuable asset, and it's clear by him being the interim head coach that how valuable he is to the university and the program. But yeah, I think anyone who says they know what to expect on Saturday is lying, right? Like, this team could come out completely flat and look like Wisconsin did last week and lose 37-0 to a mediocre Iowa team. They could come out and pull off the upset, right? And get the win on the road at night in Kinnick. And
well, there really are only two options, John. They're either going to lose or they're going to win.
Yeah, but I think how they lose or win is important. If they lose close and like Terry said, like it's a high effort game where you don't question the motor, then it's like, okay, maybe they have some fight left this year. But if they get their doors blown off, then it's like, okay, well, 3-9, here they come. Suddenly Rutgers and Michigan State are a problem. And so I do think that how this happens is going to be important and telling, and how the rest of the year is going to go. And frankly, I think Penn State fans may, for better and for worse, be paying more attention to other teams' games this Saturday and how they perform and how prospective coaches are looking, because unfortunately, and this is part of what happens when a coaching change is made mid-year, those outcomes, those results will probably have a bigger impact on the future of Penn State football than anything Penn State's players do on Saturday.
Yeah, you say that though, John. I'm going to push back on that, because you're, as a fan of this team, as a Penn State fan, you only have so many opportunities to watch your team. And yes, this season has been an absolute train wreck, and it's not playing out how anyone wants it to. I really cannot talk tonight.
It's been a long week.
And it's only Wednesday night.
Don't do that. I don't need to know that.
But I think you're going to want to see how this team responds. That's what I'm most curious about Saturday night is, what is that emotional level? What is that emotional response? And you could sense also the anger from the players, the anger with this decision of, hey, Petcraft, you came in here and you fired our coach, the guy who brought us here, right? And I'm sure the adults in the room have been more understanding of that. But this is the guy, for the players, this is the guy that brought them there and that has been involved in their families' lives. And Zachy Wheatley was telling us Wednesday night, he's like, I've known James Franklin for at least 6, maybe 7 years throughout the recruiting process. And so I want to see what that response looks like from kind of the emotional level. But obviously, I'm also curious about Ethan Grunkemeyer. And, for everyone that's been clamoring about, let's see Grunkemeyer, put him in. What are you going to do? You're gonna see that opportunity. I did want to mention, I asked Terry Smith about Drew Aller, and he said that Aller has been away from the team this week, that he's been meeting with his doctor and those kinds of things. Obviously, we know that he's going to miss the rest of the season with that injury sustained against Northwestern. So you have that out there, but Grunkemeyer did say that, yeah, he texts with Drew Aller every single day, and that Drew's helping him prepare from afar, whether it's crowd noise or, hey, make sure when they're in this coverage, look to do X, Y, and Z. Aller's still going to be involved. And I think you're going to see that involvement continue once he gets back here and is able to kind of move on with the next phase of his rehab and the healing process and all that. But yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of eyes on the quarterback this weekend. I also am wondering if they can simplify some things for this defense, because I hit on it last week, John. I will continue to hit on it. I think it's a problem when your players are going to defensive staff meetings because they still are trying to better understand the defense. And to the players' credit, they're doing everything they can to try and pick it up. But I think, and I know this was the theme at Ohio State too, like, what can Jim Knowles, the teacher, do to make this more digestible, more understandable for the players? Because I had this thought this week, John, as I'm writing all of the, the Franklin fallout over on my Substack Inside the Lions. What if we go back in the time machine to last winter? What if Tom Allen is still here? Or what if, any other defensive coordinator, not called Jim Knowles, is here, and it's a less complex system that they're running? Are there better results? And because of those better results, is James Franklin still here?
I don't think so, because
Thoughts?
I think the biggest issue is the pass rush is not getting home, and Tom Allen relied on that front four to get home a lot. And if the front four is not getting home, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing on the back end if you're getting no pressure and giving the opposing quarterback all day. There are a couple of things you said I wanted to touch on there. First, with the defense, I almost think it's better to prioritize the future for everyone, especially Knowles, who probably is the best chance of anyone not named Terry Smith of being on the next head coach's staff, and making sure that this group of guys, especially the ones that are coming back, know the defense. So I actually think continuing pushing forward might be better than simplifying for the sake of a result against Iowa.
How many of these guys are coming back?
Well, right, and that's inherently part of the problem. But if they do, it's obviously massively beneficial. And also, it's Iowa. I don't know that that offense is going to require much defensively. You could probably mess with some things and figure things out and still be okay. I think that's a big part of this. But to what you said about Ethan Grunkemeyer, I think he's the person with the most on the line pretty much the rest of the season. This will dictate if, one, he's capable of starting at Penn State next year, or two, if, let's say they go get a head coach who brings in their own quarterback, if he can start elsewhere in Division I or an FBS. I think he has a lot on the line going into his third year next year, and proving that he can compete at this level, because that's what all of this is about. And he's going to do it against some really difficult defenses. So you're going to be able to hand wave away some of the mistakes and everything. But if he comes out of this looking good or looking competent, at least, I think it's a massive boon for him. I think he has a chance to frankly, make himself a lot of money this season with the way he plays over these last 6 games. I'm curious to see how long it takes Penn State fans to call for Jackson Smolik, because nobody's beloved more than a backup quarterback on any football team. This is how things work.
He's an Iowa guy, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I'll be curious to see if that is clamored for at all. But you mentioned the communication stuff. That's going to be something to monitor too, because this is Kinnick. We saw what happened with Taquan Roberson in 2021. This was a nightmare scenario. He couldn't hear the snap count, the offensive line couldn't hear the snap count from him. Mm-hmm. They ate penalty after penalty and kept getting backed up and going 3 and out and deep in their own territory. And it essentially caused them to blow a big lead that Sean Clifford had built. And then he got hurt in that game.
And that was that the same? Yeah, that was the same injury game, the scuba turtle.
Yep, that was everything. Yep, that was all of that. So yeah, some frightful things for Penn State. One of the last time. Was that the last time they were there? I think it might have been.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't remember making this trip since then.
No,
I could be wrong though. No,
because they stormed the field afterward. Because that's where the guy came up to me and thought
you
I was
had the
a
Rose Bowl thing.
rep.
Yes, I remember.
And I didn't remember. I had no idea why this guy is looking at me and he's like, "Do you have any pins?" And I'm like, "You're in the middle of a field storming. I have no idea what you're talking about." And it's
a good reminder for me to bring a lanyard because their credentials are not ideal.
Yeah,
so I appreciate
that.
Because
I keep an extra lanyard in my bag. Turns out it was the Rose Bowl lanyard. So the guy thought I was a bowl rep, and I had no idea till after the fact that I was not representing the Rose Bowl in that moment.
Yeah.
So I should do that again this week.
It would be very funny. Let's take a quick break though. We'll get back to this discussion and talk about Penn State's coaching search here in a second. Before that, let's hear a word from our sponsors. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets. Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back. Think you know the game? Put your knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. With live betting, rivalry week odds boosts, and more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to own every Saturday. And here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DISPATCH. That's code DISPATCH. For new customers, get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, please see dkng.co/audio.
John, you're keeping the streak going. Another day, another podcast, another Roback hoodie for you.
This is actually the second Roback hoodie I've had on today. I went to men's basketball media day, which was today. By the way, the Bryce Jordan Center, they redid the media room. It is like shockingly nice. It's the nicest room probably.
They still have basketball here?
Right. It's stunning as that may be. But I unfortunately went and got something to eat after that and immediately got food on my hoodie and had to change because I am who I am. Also have the Roback shorts on today for what it's worth.
But you didn't have to change those, only the top?
No, I did not. Yes, only the hoodie.
So our friends over at Roback, you can save 20% off your first purchase at roback.com with code TND20. That's code TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20. John, they have a fleece pullover that I'm looking at that I need this fleece pullover in these bright exotic colors as much as Penn State needs to win a football game.
See, one of these shows, I'm going to wear the golf shirts that I have. You know this. I have a corgi. I have a Roback golf shirt that is just like corgis and it's purple with it on there.
Ooh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I've got the breakfast ball, which is bacon and eggs all over it. I've got the stinger, which is a bunch of bees on it. Yeah, I have all of the Roback golf polos. They're fantastic. Wear them all the time when I golf.
I don't think I've ever seen you wear any kind of polo, John, in any work setting. Was it only on the course?
Yeah, only on the golf course. And I actually I'll wear a t-shirt with a Roback hoodie on the golf course too. Also fantastic.
I do want to say, I want to shout out their collegiate crew neck looks really cool. They have the Penn State crew neck on there as well. There's also the Penn State helmet polo and a half zip ladies Roback hoodie that looks really, really cool too. So our friends over at Roback, you can save 20% off your first purchase with code TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20.
All right, let's get back to the show. But to be clear, I really do wear only Roback polos on the golf course, and none of them are normal looking. Like they're all like their designs, they're all fantastic. But yeah, let's get into this coaching search a little bit because that's where everything leads. Audrey, what are you thinking? Where do things stand? Have you heard anything that has sort of dissuaded your opinion from where we were when we last spoke? What is the tenor of where this?
Not really. I mean, I think it is so early in the game that I want to stress this enough. But this search, we're probably looking at a 2-month timeline. God help us all.
My anticipation is around December 1st, which like that also impacts timelines with
the other team
making the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's where I was going. Mm-hmm.
This is part of the problem. I don't think Penn State can hire a coach that makes the playoff because I don't think that timeline's going to work because your team will be decimated by the time that they're eliminated. And so
I mean, because
a bad spot because you don't have a high school recruiting class then.
Correct, because first round playoff games are probably that week before Christmas.
Around
it's not our problem. We're not covering them this year, but
they're also like the portal is opening. I think it's the 5th or whatever, and like players won't be able to go until early January either way. So I'm not saying that from a portal perspective. They'll be fine from that standpoint. But the high school recruiting
head coach, yes.
So this is
where I'm not fully understanding because once the head coach is in place, there's that 5-day window.
I believe it's a 15-day window, but I also don't think that's possible until early January either. But again, not something they have to worry about because then the head coach would be in place, so they don't have to, you know what I mean? That's not as much of a concern. So I think the big issue, though, is you want to have it done before that early signing period so you can have a high school recruiting class. Otherwise, you're probably going to lose most of your class, and then you have to turn an entire roster over with transfers, right? Because you're going to inevitably, spoiler alert, Penn State's going to lose players to the transfer portal no matter who they hire, right? Unless they hire James Franklin back. And in that case, if they do that, they're still probably going to lose.
That's not happening. I can tell that's not happening.
I'm joking. For what it's worth. But I think that is like the most likely scenario is that they get it done, I should say, before that early signing period. And if they don't, then it is in all likelihood, you're maybe looking after the first round of the playoff. It's, I guess, possible, but still I would be trying to get that done before the early signing period.
Here's the other side of this that the nerd in me is fascinated in. Actually, Wait, John, keep riffing for a second. I got to Google something, and I'm a loud typer, so.
Yeah, this is my apologies to everybody listening to how obnoxiously loud her typing is about to be. Real quick, I do want to say, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts. Those really help us out. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button down below. Hit the subscribe button. We appreciate all of you. I actually didn't even realize how close we are to 3,000 subscribers, as I now beg for that after begging for 2,000 for a long time. And don't worry, once we get to 3,000, I'll beg for 4,000. But yeah, I think this coaching search, that timeline is going to impact things. I think it could take coaches out of play and bring some into play. And I think there are some names worth monitoring. But Audrey, what did you Google?
Well, what I was Googling, see, I even muted myself, Johnny, because look how far I've come using the computer.
Technology,
It's great when it works. Penn State, the academic calendar. So when does their spring semester start? Because that's the other side of this, right? Because yes, these are paid athletes, and yes, many of them are here to play football, but there's the academic side. Penn State's spring semester starts January 12th. So also keep in mind where these players would be going. You have to get all of that stuff lined up from the academic end of, okay, how are you transferring in?
You can usually get a week after that too, like the 19th is probably
it's syllabus week. As someone who spends a lot of time in the classroom,
Yes.
that first week, everybody's trying to figure it out, iron the schedule out, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's the other part of this timeline. So what's so unique about this is that we're looking at maybe 6 weeks, maybe somewhere around there, till they probably maybe make a hire, depending, like you said, on the other candidates. I still think Matt Rule is certainly in the mix of interest. Eli Drinkwitz is another name that we've seen picking up some steam out there as well, which really would be fantastic when you take him from one powerhouse journalism school to another, right? That's what everybody's here for, the J school comparisons.
Would be so excited for that one. Can you tell in my voice?
Yeah, same. But John, that could open the door. You know where I'm going
for the Bo Prabula return. Matt Zoller's potentially following Drinkwitz. Yeah, I get it.
The ones that got away return tour. Yeah.
There are other SEC names worth monitoring too, though, at bigger schools. One is a name that I've mentioned here before, and I've noticed other people have started to discuss now too. I believe I talked about.
Can you tell the people, what does the name rhyme with?
Well, the name is Kalen DeBoer. That is, I'm not saying anything's going to happen, but I think it's a name worth monitoring. I think I said that on our live show right after James was fired, even that is a name that I would expect to be a part of this. I don't like, and listen, this is the difficult part of our jobs this time of year when this stuff happens, is you are trying to parse through who is real, who is trying to get an extension, who is trying to get a raise, point blank. Like, I don't think Marcus Freeman's going to be Penn State's head coach, but I do think Marcus Freeman's going to get a raise out of this. I think there are other
leverage, man. It's a hell of a thing.
Yes, like there are going to be other head coaches that happens with, and I was actually surprised that Freeman was the name connected, just because I had heard DeBoer's name, and frankly, if you're going to do that, like that's probably the name you want to attach to something like that to say, right? Like I think that is a more plausible, because things are weird at Alabama at all times, and he's the guy who's following Nick Saban, and the standards are high there, even higher than they are at Penn State, and so a successful year for Penn State is not a successful one at Alabama. But yeah, I think the general parameters are probably where we had them before. This is in all likelihood going to be someone who either is a sitting Power 5 head coach or has Power 5 head coach experience, and extensive experience would be my anticipation. I would be surprised if it is someone who has not been a head coach before. I know there are names floating out there that are coordinators. Again, everyone knows my affinity for Will Stein. I think
Stein, Stan, John Sauber.
Yes. I think Penn State would have to swing and miss on quite a few candidates to go to someone that is not a sitting head coach or who has been a Power 5 head coach. I think like a Power 2 head coach is most likely, right? Like an SEC Big Ten, someone who's operated in that world. But yeah, I think this is, I don't want to say progressing, but like this is the part of the search where it maybe ramps up a little bit, especially I think once you get into later this week, early next week, like contacts will be made. Penn State is able to sort through where there's interest and who's trying to go to their athletic director and say South Bend, Indiana, and get a raise. And to be clear, like I'm not saying Marcus Freeman's like reaching out to Penn State, but it is an agent's job. I'm going to say this broadly about nothing specifically. it is an agent's job to make contact with their athletic director when they have an opportunity to get either an extension or a raise. And they would not be doing their job if they didn't do that. So anyone who has done that in the past, whether it's when there's a coaching search going on or when it is preseason, you have massive expectations, like that is the agent doing their job. The coach does not go to the athletic director and say, give me a raise. That is not what happens.
Give me all the money. Yeah.
Yes, I want to be abundantly clear about that. That is not how these things work.
The agents are, and this is, you look at the college football ecosystem, the agents are massive players in the system.
They're the biggest players in the system.
Yes, and when you see names floated out there, who do you think's floating the name, right?
Right.
It's coming from the agent. And Jimmy Sexton was here. I remember seeing him actually over at the game day set when Oregon was here, because obviously he does everything for Saban. So if Sexton's in town, he reps obviously James Franklin, also Saban. So you're going to have contact with those guys because they're your guys, because they pay you to work for them.
Yes.
And that's how this works. And I also, one of the other thoughts this week that's come up as we sussed through the buyout and the fallout and the emotion. I was going to say, should we mention the buyout? I'll wait till you're done, then I'll go into the buyout. I just need to say it again. Buyout 12 times, but I think
I know, but it's not.
Say it louder.
It's not getting through. You finish what you're saying, and I'll go to the buyout.
Well, you know what, John, is again, as someone who's a teacher, sometimes it doesn't resonate, and you can do the best job that you can, and you can reflect on your performance. You can watch the film. Sometimes it just doesn't land.
Yes.
But to the agent thing and all of this, a couple thoughts I had. One, you go back to the 2016 Penn State, Ohio State, Grant Haley scoop and score game.
Mm-hmm.
If that game doesn't happen, how much longer would James Franklin have been the head coach here?
Probably over at the end of that year, if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm. So again, Penn State might have been churning through more coaches during that span. The other thought on that was, had Sandy Barber and the Board of Trustees not done this contract, we now see the fallout, John. But here, this is what's interesting to me, right? How many times in the past year, 2 years, has James Franklin backed the bus over Sandy Barber with comments about alignment and all these things that they wanted? At the end of the day, you know what? She helped him get the deal. Now, granted, Penn State, it takes two. It takes the Board of Trustees. Everybody signed off on this.
It takes a board chair of the Board of Trustees.
Mm-hmm. Matt Schuyler, Sandy Barber.
To get that contract despite the athletic.
Yeah. So as many times as, he was mad about the alignment and these things, at the end of the day, I'm queuing you up. At the end of the day, he now steps into this era of his life with this buyout that, again, James Franklin did not get into coaching for the money, as any college football coach or any really football coach at any level will tell you. They grind around the clock. It is not a job that I am envious of, although I know when people see the figures, they say, I want that job. I'd go sit on a beach and never work again.
I don't want to get fired. That would be great, but I wouldn't want to actually do the job.
Be careful what you wish for, John. Be careful.
To be clear, from that job, not this one. I want to keep this one.
But let's our segue into the buyout here, John. If anyone hasn't been paying attention, or maybe if they've seen some misinformation on the internet, what is the details of James Franklin's buyout?
I have been saying this. I'm shaking my desktop because I keep hitting my hands because I'm flustered.
And I'm the loud typer. Mm-hmm.
Audrey, how long have I said this? This is 2 weeks before James was fired. I think I first mentioned this. I don't know how many.
Well, at halftime of UCLA, when I was texting you for the contract.
Yes.
And I said, hey, what page is the buyout on? I think that's when we started discussing.
Yes. Yeah. And I started explaining that James Franklin, in all likelihood, is not going to get $50 million from Penn State out of this buyout. Sure, he could retire, never coach again, whatever. But part of these contracts is that you have to try to get another job, whether it's in media, whether it is in coaching. And so he is not going to retire. I don't know that for certain, but just knowing James, I cannot imagine him retiring. So what happens then is he signs a new contract with, let's say, another school, UCLA, Auburn, Florida, whatever. They pay him what has to be a market rate, because you, as part of these contracts, you also have a duty to try and maximize your value. You can't just say, I'll coach for $50 a year, so Penn State has to pay me. It's not how these things work. So he goes and he signs his contract with another university. Let's say the example I've been using, which is, I think I'm way undershooting when I say this. Let's say he signs a contract. I'll do 6 years instead of 5 for $30 million, right? Because he's owed 6 years left.
Mm-hmm.
That's $5 million per year. That $5 million would come out of the $8 million per year that Penn State is owed. So then they would owe him $3 million a year for the final 6 years of the contract. What'll probably actually happen is he signs a contract that is worth more than $8 million a year, thus relinquishing anything that Penn State owes him, as long as he has that contract in hand and is working for that university, rendering the buyout to be nothing, potentially. I'm not saying it will be nothing, but there's a very real world where Penn State ends up paying its assistant coaches more in buyout money than James Franklin because of the way it's structured. And I say all this because I keep seeing people say Penn State is paying $50 million to make James Franklin go away.
They're backing up the Brinks truck.
They are probably you're giving him nothing. Like, that is my prediction in all of this, is that Penn State is not going to end up paying James Franklin anything in buyout money beyond this season, because they owe him for the rest of the season because he won't be employed again until after the season. But my prediction is that Penn State does not owe him any more money moving forward after this year. That could not happen. He could.
So you're telling me he's getting paid $8 or more million than his next job?
Yes, because that's outside of the top 15 in coaching. And like right now, I know Penn State fans might not believe this. He's probably the best coach available on the market. Like
100%.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with somebody else, and actually, no, it was with my students, because I always like to poll them as the pulse of the Penn State community. And some of them said, well, who would want him? And I said, guys, like, this is
Auburn,
a marquee
Florida,
hire.
Florida State. Do you want me
Call
to
the
keep
Hogs.
Going? UCLA, Arkansas, North Carolina. Whoever, whatever job is vacated by a Penn State, like whoever Penn State hires, that school too.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, well, I don't know that one's going to work.
I want to go back to that point and the, well, who would want him kind of thing. This is also why Penn State made the move now, because when you look at this, you are giving James Franklin an opportunity to figure out what he wants to do next and jump into that coaching cycle and trying to be fair to him. Like, let's be honest, John. You and I, the way I say no from a media perspective, no, interacted with James. That scene Saturday night was horrible. It was horrible for him. It was probably horrible for him, for his family. As objective reporters watching this unfold, I felt sad for the guy. And I felt like this is not what any human being deserves. You can be mad at the head coach. You can be mad at the play calls. But I also think it brings up a question, and I've heard this from folks this week, from Letterman, and saying, is that what our fan base is? Is that like what it's become? And I don't know. I'm not here to say, hey, fans behave in whatever way. Like, I get it. You're mad. You've paid a lot of money. You've been asked for a lot. You've been promised a lot. You haven't won a national championship since '86. I get it. But I do feel like we're kind of having a moment in terms of the Penn State system and fan behavior and what is, what is okay, what is not. And again, I don't have the answers, but all these things just struck me. And I felt bad for James Franklin when he had to walk through the tunnel and listen to that. And his daughter and wife had to listen to that fan reaction. I just think Penn State could not keep doing that. And I don't see a world where James Franklin wanted to keep doing that. And
I think the statements post-game were telling in that regard. Like, clearly he was sick of it.
Yeah, and I think his response right afterward, it was, I'm committed to those guys in the locker room, right? I've heard people say too, well, how come we haven't heard from James Franklin? Why hasn't he posted a statement? Why hasn't there been a video or whatever, a montage? I will say this, as someone who's lost a job within the past few months, I can only imagine, and I think I have a decent grasp on this after going through this, I can only imagine the pain that he's feeling going through this, of almost pouring 12 years of his life, not just his career, his life, into this place, into this job, into trying to build this program up, working around the clock nonstop. And when you pour everything you have into something and doesn't feel like you're appreciated back, or it doesn't end the way you want, that's a really tough quite frankly, a really shitty feeling.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who's lost a job suddenly can relate to that, right? And obviously, we're doing it on much smaller levels. And one of the things I wrote on my Substack this week, and again, I'm going philosophical here. It's just, we'll just wait till we get to the end of the coaching search, John. Who knows what I'll say?
Can't wait. We're literally 4 days into this thing, so we might need to save some of this.
It felt like this week, and it felt this way when I lost my job, and I'm sure other people, they've reached out and said that it's happened to them. It felt the same way. It feels like someone died, and it feels like we were eulogizing James Franklin this week, and it felt like during interviews and at practice, we were like at a wake, right? It just feels like all of a sudden something is gone. And I'm sure James Franklin is feeling those same feelings as well of, hey, this thing that I loved, it's been taken from me and I don't know what to do. And I'm sure there's also a feeling of, hey, because again, we're hearing it from the players and the coaches of we let James Franklin down. I'm sure he's feeling that he let them down. And it's a tough situation, but please be human beings and be sympathetic to it if you can.
Real quick, I continue to see the comments about, well, he's getting all this money from Penn State not to coach. They're paying. I literally just explained how that's not the case. Like, I just explained it. I don't know what more I have to say.
John, you got to watch the film, make the corrections, get better.
Penn State is paying James out the rest of this season as if he's still employed. And then, in all likelihood, he's going to be paid by his next employer only. I can't say it enough. It is just driving me up a wall. With that being said, we've talked about this coaching search a lot. Would you like to get into our predictions for the Iowa game?
Is there a game Saturday?
Yeah, that we're traveling to. We'll be in Iowa City. By the way, I saw Eric's comment in the chat real quick about asking our favorite bar and restaurant in Iowa City. I'm sorry, I haven't been there in 4 years, and I've only made one trip there. Audrey might know better than me, but it has been a bit for me. And that was I think my first season on the beat too, so it was a little chaotic for me.
Yeah, we always stay in Cedar Rapids, so we're not really great indicators of that. I will be staying in Iowa City this time, so if you see a woman who looks like she's exhausted from covering a coaching search only during the first week, and it kind of looks like me, but I'm maybe not quite as frazzled, please say hello. I do enjoy having conversations with folks, with fans, with subscribers, with listeners. So do not be shy. But yeah, I'm actually flying out Thursday night. This was a bizarre, like you want to talk about, people always say getting to Penn State's tough.
Yeah, I have a connection through Charlotte.
Yeah.
I have a connection through Charlotte on the way there and Harrisburg on the way, or in Chicago on the way back. But yeah, it's a weird trip.
I do love Kinnick. I believe I'm on the record as saying that despite not knowing much about Iowa City, I'm gonna actually, one of my friends, her husband went to Iowa and still goes to games, so I am gonna get some recommendations from him in terms of like what I can do Friday to stay afloat of grad school Friday morning. Where can I set up in a coffee shop and do some work? But yeah, I think the spectacle, the noise, I'm going to be sure to be posting some stuff over on my Substack this weekend too. I love how close the benches are to the fans to the sideline at Kinnick. I think that's a really, really cool scene. And obviously the wave. John's going to tear up.
I will every time. I hate it.
I don't hate the wave. I hate crying.
No, she's not. I promise. I will not allow that to happen. But yeah, I think one of the great things, if I remember correctly, at Kinnick, we get to be on the field pregame, so we'll be down there, like you said. Those photos of the bench and how close it is, like out. We'll both have them. It's exciting to cover a game after this week. Honestly, like I'm looking forward to watching a football game and covering it. It's my first time on the road this year after.
Same.
The appendix. Oh yeah, you didn't even.
After I opted out of UCLA. Yeah, that nothing to see here. Gonna be a blowout.
Some of us were medically. Some of us were on the injury report. Some of us just opted out. I think that tells you all you need to know about Audrey and I. But no, let's get into our predictions for this game. I can go first with the score and the player we're talking about from the game, if you would like. Sure. Unless you are okay, because I assume you're unprepared here.
As always.
I have Iowa winning this game 17-13. I think it is going to be very low scoring. Audrey is the face of someone who also has 17-13 and now has to change her score.
No, but close. I will show you on the post-it note what I have.
And I have the player we're talking about in this game being Kamari Bolton. I think he's going to be the best player on the field for Iowa. But
so you're not even picking a Penn State player?
Well,
is that what the show's become?
I think he's going to be the best player on the the field on Saturday.
Mhm.
Penn State wise, we're probably talking about the wide receiver situation, which I'm curious to see about. Like Terry Smith said essentially that he's not making any immediate changes, but I do want to see how much Kyron Hudson plays. That's on the Penn State side. I think that will be the thing we're monitoring, I guess, going into the post game show. But yeah, I think Kamari Mullen's going to be awesome in this game. I think this run defense has struggled, and he's going to make it look worse.
John, my prediction, I'm making sure I don't have like my bank account number on here or something, is Iowa 20, Penn State 13.
Tough scene.
Yeah, I back in the preseason, back when things were normal, when I said Penn State was going to go 11-1 and make the playoff, and I wasn't going to sing karaoke because my picks were going to be so good.
Huh.
I had this game circled as the one where I thought maybe it would go off the rails. Well, it's already off the rails, but I just cannot pick Penn State right now until we see otherwise. And I just, again, like we hit on earlier, I don't know what kind of emotional response we're going to get. I don't know what you're going to get from Ethan Grunkemeyer. I do think that they will, well, maybe feed Katron Allen more consistently this time around. Who knows? My player that I think we're talking about very late Saturday night, early Sunday morning.
Oh, I didn't even think about that yet.
Yeah.
We both have, I think, 6 a.m. I'm leaving at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Sunday morning.
So 6 a.m. Sunday out of Eastern Iowa Airport. Let's go. All-nighter. Here we come.
Wait, are you not in Cedar? Is that the same as Cedar Rapids?
It's the same. Yeah, it's
okay,
Eastern Iowa. Yeah.
I should have known that.
At least I hope so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you might want to check that.
Yeah. No, I'm fairly certain. But I think we'll be talking about Devontae Ross, who had a huge game against Iowa last year. If you guys remember, I'm sure you do. That was the game that Penn State's coaches kind of fell in love with Ross and said, hey, if he's doing this at Troy, we think he can do that for us. And I do think he has been their best receiver of the three that they brought in, and, well, quite frankly, the best that they have. So I think that we're talking about Devontae Ross very, very early Sunday morning, which I guess, John, we'll still go live after the game, right? Is that still the plan?
Yeah, we will. Probably at, I don't know,
6
1
o'clock
a.m.
out
Eastern
there, so
time.
7. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Dispatch
Midnight.
after dark. That is our finest
God.
work.
That is when I am at risk of saying something that puts my career in danger.
Just become self-employed. Then you take away the issue of getting fired. Yeah.
Hard pass. No thanks. But yeah, we'll be live post game at some point following the game. And then we will both head to the airport and get on a flight and be back here for another week of coaching search. It is.
It's a bye week, John. I like that detail was lost on me. I mean, because we'll still be doing work. We'll still be talking to people, but there's no game next Saturday.
Yeah, I definitely knew that. That's not something that you're saying and is catching me by surprise now at all, actually.
I only say this because somebody mentioned it to me yesterday, and I said, yeah, bye week, I'm not doing anything. And then I remembered this morning, that's not true. I'm going to Pittsburgh for a Packers game next Sunday night.
Yeah. Honestly,
I was just like, I'm not going anywhere.
I am actually kind of glad that I'm not doing anything during the bye week. Like, obviously, we'll record and we'll have coaching search stuff, especially if there's updates that are worth discussing. But yeah, I am like, I need next week. I need it pretty badly. I was going to go to some college football or to a college football game, but that just is not worth it right now. But we will be back next week as well and be recording midweek, and we'll see about the weekend depending on what happens and how things go. But until then, we will be live post-game, as we said. If you want to read Audrey's work, you can find it insidethelions.substack.com. You can find my work at centerdaily.com. You can find Audrey on Twitter at AudSnyder4. And on Blue Sky, if you search Audrey Snyder, you can find me on Twitter at John Sauber. And if you search John Sauber on Blue Sky, I think that's everything. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, the subscribe button down below. We are eternally grateful for all of you. We appreciate the comments in the chat. I try and keep up with them as we go. Try and address them as we can. I apologize if we don't always get to all of them, but be sure to join in there with the discussion and leave us your questions when you can. But until next time, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.